But let me start at the outset to address a disturbing issue that Peter and I have discussed today. It's central to the issues we are addressing. It is summed up by a letter a farmer has written to me. Now, this is rubbish that's coming out of Canberra. In fact, this is the ultimate lie by the federal government to cover up their failure to do anything. I'm advised that a local National Party member has told a couple of farmers that due to international trade agreements that Australia has signed with overseas countries, the federal government is prevented from providing subsidies to farmers. Not that we're talking about subsidies, but senior members of the federal parliament are talking to their constituents about the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement, and they are promoting the untruth that this agreement and others prevent subsidies to farmers. Now, I'll comment on that in a moment, but my farmer correspondent said, quote, "What good are these trade agreements to farmers if we are removing the vital safety net which protects them from major adversity like drought? Given that the New South Wales government is providing a freight rebate and the water infrastructure rebate, I would have thought the argument by the federal government being unable to provide subsidies to farmers due to international trade agreements would appear very shaky." Now, this is the farmer speaking. He said, "It would appear that they don't want to spend a dollar of their budget on farmers, and this," he says, "is the pillar to hide behind." Well, let me demolish this rubbish, except to say that apparently this is what government in Canberra are saying. They've reached into the excuse bucket. Well, they're not going to get away with it. This is mongrel behaviour. For a start, France and America don't worry about subsidising farmers. They do it because farming is central to their economy, but most importantly, farming is central to keeping communities together. We can't afford any further drift from the bush. But what a wonderful free trade agreement we must have when, because of pig-headed stupidity, we'll finish up with nothing to trade. What a wonderful international trade agreement which requires you to stand by, which I might add it doesn't, which requires you to stand by and watch Australian farmers go broke, watch rural Australia perish. But here's the most important point. Apart from the fact that your government is promoting untruths, we're not talking about subsidies. The farmer is not talking about handouts. Just as students pay back their HECS debt, two young men working for me are in exactly that position. We are calling for a farmer's HECS. That will get them fodder and water immediately, like the students. They'll pay when their income later on reaches a certain point. Students start paying their HECS debt when they start earning $45,881. The loans on offer by the government are useless. There is no money to repay a loan. The guts of it for the Prime Minister is this. You either believe in the bush or you don't. If you don't, tell us. If you do, will you stop your government from telling untruths about why an immediate payment for fodder and water can't be made by the government for farmers in need on the condition that they, like the students, pay the money back later? Now, as Bob Catter would tell you, this happened in Queensland with the sugar industry. It can easily happen now. It's not happening because, I'm sorry, we've got a government which is both ignorant and pig-headed. This failure to respond properly has the potential to wipe out the National Party politically and with it the government. As I've said many times, there's nothing wrong with not knowing. Simply talk, as we have been this week, to those who do know. That's why we're here, to listen and to learn. No room for know-alls here. Sadly, most of them are in Canberra. Let me say this simply. The government in Canberra is in power. You can do two things with power. You can crush or you can lift up. The government has chosen to crush. I'm asking them to lift up. The first step to be taken towards lifting up the nation, not just the bush, is to declare this a national disaster and apply the resources of the nation immediately. To the Prime Minister, I say this. PM, if you can't do that, and I'm saying this to you slowly, you are permanently and politically damaged.